Hello and welcome to the channel. As always, like the video, and if you enjoyed the story, leave a comment on if you would want more. This fanfiction was not created by me, but in the description there is a link to the fanfic so you can show your support to the creator and read along. Without any more delay, let's dive into the story.
Your watch? Wait, then you're the one who sent those drones after me? Midoriya questioned as the towering figure of Vilgax stomped towards him. The ground shook as he did, and the boy gulped. And let me guess, you're not really with those villains? Perceptive, as usual. I will admit, for a human you were somewhat impressive facing my soldiers, but they hold no candle to me. This is the end of your pointless hero charade. The watch is my rightful property. Vilgax growled as his stride got faster. The greenette gritted his teeth and lifted the watch. Please give me something good. If this is your watch, then I'm afraid I'm confiscating it permanently, he said as his slammed down on the dial. The familiar green flash coated the boy and his form shrunk, his head widened and Vilgax looked down to see the white and green silicone suit of his opponent's new form. Reverb? Works for me. A Sonnie? How pathetic. Midoriya leapt back out the way of a fist that came crashing towards him, and his body glowed lightly as his body began to split, until another reverb leapt out of him. This repeated constantly, and in an instant, Vilgax was surrounded by dozens of clones. Guti Hayem Boyes. The original clone commanded, and they all rushed forth, in an attempt to dogpile the alien. It didn't work as the muscular alien shook them off and tore some of the clones apart, causing him to dissipate. CRAP. Slow him do WN. The remaining clones opened their mouths wide, and the rest of the noise in the building was instantly drowned out by the screaming the rapidly multiplying aliens produced. Ah, you insolent pests! Vilgax screamed as he cupped his ears, slowly being pushed back by the sound waves. He then suddenly charged forward through the attack, smashing the clones out of the way and disrupting the attack. Ow ow ow! Random clones complained as they all stood up. Vilgax stood tall above the original reverb with a harsh glare. Oh! No mere sound can hold down me, child. It's almost a shame you don't know what you're dealing with, the villain said as went down to pick the boy up. The sound alien groaned as he glared back. Neither do you, he said simply, and rapidly cloned as many times as he possibly could. Vilgax's eyes widened and he quickly balled his hand into a fist, but he was too late. Improvised Special MOVE. Sonic Launcher. He announced, and every clone let out a full-power short sonic scream, knocking the monster off his feet and giving the teen some breathing room. Surprised that workhead. The army of clones all got to their feet and the prime reverb took cover behind a rock. Second SP style move. One Soyuendi army. As Vilgax climbed to his feet, the clones once more let out full power screams, however this time they refused to let up. Vilgax continued to be moved back, as the ground split and cracked. Were it a human on the other end, their head would be liable to explode. Literally. Vilgax dropped his hands from his ears, screaming in pain or fury as he grabbed a giant chunk of the ground and swung around, launching it at the armada. The sound slowed it down, but the villain had thrown it with so much force that avoiding it was impossible. The majority of the clones were wiped out, only one managing to dodge out the way. Beep beep beep. Oh, come on. Not now. It's not even been 10 minutes. The clone complained, and Prime Reverb silently agreed from his hiding place. BWOO. We're still separate? Yes, I wasn't so much of a fool to not take precautions against such a powerful device. Still, it's annoying Galvan tech, so there's no time to explain. The squid-like alien said, grabbing the clone Midoriya by the arm and yanking him into the air. No use explaining it to a clone or a corpse anyway, and you're both. Splat. Ugh. The clone's eyes widened as Vilgax's fists went straight through his stomach and out the other side. The original Midoriya felt like he was going to be sick. Then, the now-dead clone morphed into a green light and flew back into the Omnitrix, giving away the real teen's hiding position. Vilgax gave a small, cruel grin. Finally, time that I get what I should never have been denied. Vilgax said, and Midoriya quickly scrambled back, only to bump into another rock. And I have to thank you, Midoriya, for confirming something for me. No normal Sonicarian could fend me off like that. Omnitrix aliens truly are the pinnacle of their species. He lifted the teen up by his shirt, and Midoriya shivered as he saw nothing but endless hate in those red eyes. And you still couldn't beat me. That is why I am Vilgax, why those who know me tremble before me. Only insignificant insects kneel, and everyone kneels before me. Why yeah, well I wouldn't want to look at that F-face either. Midoriya got out, throat dry. You think you're funny? Vilgax asked, and before the boy could answer he was smashed into the ground. He felt the air leave him as the villain got a hold of his leg and beat him into the ground again, before launching him up and punching him into a nearby tree. The teen barely lifted himself up, feeling his eye beginning to swell. I think he broke my everything. I think All Might would struggle with this guy. Midoriya! Get off him, you bastard! Aizawa's concerned voice yelled out, and the greenette's breath hitched as he turned to see Aizawa bolting at them, flinging out his capture tape. Wait, no, don't, too late. The tape wrapped around Vilgax's body, looping around his arms and legs. Aizawa rushed forth and presumably went to go for a kick. Midoriya had no idea though, as the alien yanked the pro towards him and caught him by the head. The pro let out a scream as the alien's grip tightened. Mr. Aizawa, no. Poof. I'm in a rush, so be wise and take this opportunity one give you, human. The monster growled as he threw the man up and batted him away, seemingly uncaring about the capture tape around him. Do not follow us. Shigaraki, let your pet play. Pet? Both teacher and student questioned, and suddenly a giant muscular bird-like creature slammed down beside a white-haired man covered in decapitated hands. No moo. He's a perfect counter to All Might, but a little practice won't hurt. The white-haired villain, presumably Shigaraki, said. I fail to see how this brat is at all more worth it than the #1 hero. You fail to see a lot of things. Is the warp ready? Beep. Midoriya looked down as the two villains conversed, Aizawa recovering. The Omnitrix had recharged. Whatever. Nomu, kill Eraserhead. The white-haired villain commanded, and the bird-like creature suddenly smashed Aizawa into the ground. And make it slow. No-oh! Midoriya shouted as he struggled in Vilgax's grasp. Aizawa turned to try to roll away, Nomu's foot about to come down atop him. Vilgax grabbed tighter at the teen, and there was a sudden growing green light coming from the boy. What? Vilgax questioned before suddenly being blasted back, the Omnitrix exploding like it had before with Bakugu. Midoriya didn't focus on that, instead immediately slamming down on the interface as he turned towards his teacher. A green flash engulfed him, and then all of a sudden, crystal eyes burst out of the smoke at full speed, firing out crystal projectiles. Get off him! Nomu didn't react as the crystals bounced off him, and even one or two lodged into his brain and went through. Midoriya wasn't discouraged though, immediately dropping and coating the floor in crystal. Nomu's foot came down on a shield as Aizawa was quickly carried away, and the Nomu was trapped. Shigaraki also was knocked back by a block of crystal, but otherwise unaffected. Wow, that's quite the ability you have. The hand-covered villain mocked as he recovered, and Crystal Ice carried his teacher to safety behind cover. But Nomu won't be stopped so easily. Crack! Crack! Shatter! Sir, are you okay? The transformed teen questioned his teacher from their point hidden near the forest, and the man groaned, standing up. I'm sorry. Huh? I'm your teacher, you shouldn't need to rescue me. Save yourself. The scraggly man ordered as he stood. And leave you to face two guys that would give All Might trouble? No. He immediately argued, and the teacher glared. I will expel you. Fine then, expel me. It won't change the fact you need help, and I can give it. The teen said without missing a beat, and Aizawa blinked, before a light but pained smile crossed his face, just for a moment. You really are like him. Fine, only because of the situation and because everyone else is scattered around. We can't let those two get away and run into any unprepared students. Aizawa said, before the ground started to rumble. Incoming. If I get your capture tape back, can you take Shigaraki? Yes. I'll keep him distracted in the meantime. You sure you can handle that villain? Alien, sir. And it's not a matter of can or can't. Suddenly, some of the trees flew apart and a clearing opened up, revealing an annoyed Vilgax. Crystal Eyes glared, instantly sending out a massive pillar of crystal to knock him back. I just will. Nice try, Midoriya. The alien said as he punched the crystals into pieces, sending them flying. But you will finally learn to fear. Get over yourself, Gaxi. The crystal manipulator interrupted, rushing forward. At this point, he was starting to get angry. You're another bully, just like every other villain, and I swear on everything I value I refuse to fear any bully ever again. No matter who they are. Midoriya faked going in for a punch, backing out just at the last moment as Vilgax went to counter, crystal structures bursting out of the ground and knocking the villain into the sky. The crystal alien continued storming forth, creating and leaping onto taller and taller pillars before catching Vilgax by the arm and slamming him into the diamond floor, grabbing the tape and throwing it towards the side Aizawa would be on. He didn't look though, as his opponent rushed at him. Diamond Fist meet metal and the two aliens struggled against each other a couple of moments. However, cracks started forming along Crystal Eye's arm and he quickly retreated upon noticing them, only to be uppercut off the podium to the floor below. Okay, no clashing then. Splish. Splash. Ah. The teen's eyes widened and he looked away a moment as he recognized the voice, seeing a ship on water surrounded by villains. On it, he spotted two of his classmates. Mineta? Azui? Oh, that can't be good. A loud bang got the boy's attention and he turned to see Vilgax running towards him. He grinned as an idea came to mind. The villain got closer and the boy dropped, creating one massive structure out the ground to throw the villain out the way. It worked just barely, and the structure continued going, diving into the lake and freezing it all solid, as well as leaving a little present for his friends. Beep. 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 Finally. No. Whoa. Midoriya turned nervously, coming face to face with Vilgax. He tried to run but... BZZZT. Eha. He screamed as he dropped, unable to move. Vilgax grabbed him and started dragging him away, as he was unable to resist. Midoriya. Boom. What? About time he showed up. I am here. Though he couldn't get a proper look, Midoriya could see his mentor at the USJ entrance. Standing tall, emanating raw fury. And he wasn't smiling. Too late. Vilgax said, almost as if his very tone was smiling, and blue bars surrounded both him and Midoriya. Villains all around suddenly were cocked out and removed, and then their All Might stood before them face shocked and almost in fear. Get your hands off my student. It hurt like hell to move anything through this electric containment, but if he put all his effort in, used all his strength, he could just about get out a few words. Focus on Nomu. Then, the USJ disappeared. Everything he knew disappeared. Midoriya blinked and he was no longer in the USJ. He was on a cold hard metal floor, looking out a window. A window that showed him the planet Earth. Ah! Midoriya hissed as wire after wire was plugged into him, creating little curves all along his arm. He was trapped, arms and legs bound by some circle-shaped contraption holding him prisoner. His hands and feet were bound by shackles and his watch was sat snug inside the biggest one, unable to be used. Test 1, overloading. Vilgax said to one of his drone soldiers, Midoriya glaring at him. The robot seemingly nodded and typed in some codes. Overloading? 500 volts. BZZT buzz BZZT. Ah, SZZZ, ah. Midoriya groaned and hissed as blue bolts of electricity started to course near him, not yet painful but incredibly unpleasant. Then his eyes widened. Oh no, they're gonna. 1000 volts. Ah. Stop, ahaha, he felt tears begin to prick at his eyes as the unforgiving machine started burning him, leaving him gasping for air when it finally cut off. Ah, you. No visible changes so far. I will get this watch, whether I have to kill you or not. Vilgax said simply, looking over some readings the greenette couldn't make out. Over my dead body. That's the idea. Let's stop playing around. 500,000 volts. No. That's. Sir? Do it. Help. The muscular villain wasn't satisfied, however, continuing to up the voltage and seemingly taking pleasure in the boy's pained and terrified screams. Sir, the Omnitrix is still not affected. The drone announced, and the squid-like villain laughed, seemingly causing the room's temperature to drop from that alone. Sir? Of course it didn't. Cut the power. The greenette slouched forth, breathing heavily as the current ceased, tears falling freely in his whole body, feeling as though it had ceased to exist. Vilgax stepped forth, lifting up the teen's head to look him in the eye. That was for all the trouble you've given me so far. Now I will take what's rightfully mine. DNA identification code 230-7861. Though muffled, a voice replied, seemingly coming from inside the shackle with the watch. Code recognized. Bearer reset imminent, please stand by for DNA scans. Is that the Omnitrix? Release the brat's arm. Vilgax commanded, and the shackle holding his Omnitrix was let loose. His arm dropped as he was still recovering from the shock, and he felt his blood run cold as it started to slip away. Then, it fell off, clattering with the floor. The Omnitrix was no longer a part of him. And no. Finally, after so long, just picture it. An army of aliens, all under my command. Droid, take this to that room I had you set up. It will need time to reset. The villain instructed, and the robot took the watch away. Weakly, Midoriya tried to reach out to it, but he ended up just falling on his face when the rest of the shackles opened up. Cross, I don't want to take any chances with this brat still being on the ship after how long he's possessed my watch. Threw him off the ship, preferably back towards his little cesspool of a planet. Cross is on it. A gruff voice spoke up, and the now watchless teen forced his head up, surprised to see a bipedal tiger with claws and an almost lookador-like outfit. Another alien? Gee, good kitty. He muttered dumbly, unable to think of anything else to say. Bad idea. Suddenly he was lifted up by his shirt with a pissed of alien tiger snarling in his face, fist reeled back to attack. Let me tell you something, ugly-looking Earth kid. No one calls Cross a kitty but Cross, and Cross never calls Kitty a Cross. Cross yelled in his face, fist incoming fast before it was intercepted by Vilgax. Did I tell you to beat him to a bloody pulp? No? Then don't do it. I don't have time for your antics. He chided, and the alien seemed to deflate a little before dropping the boy to the floor and dragging him away. Now that's a good kitty. Midoriya didn't recover for quite a while, yet fortunately the ship was quite large, so he at least had time to rest as his back was dragged along the rough metal floor. Cross muttered to himself, annoyed the entire way to wherever they were going, constantly referring to himself in the third person. For some reason, the greenette couldn't help but feel Bakugo both would and would not get along with the alien. He tried his best to think of anything he could do to escape, to run, to get away, but there was no way he could get his hand loose from the alien long enough to escape him, and even if he did, he still had to figure out how to face Vilgax and get home. No matter what, even if he had to die to save it, he was not letting Vilgax keep his alien paws on the Omnitrix. But, he's so strong, how do I face someone like that without a quirk? How did you plan to prove your worth to you? A before you met All Might? He winced as Cross dropped him beside a door and started fishing through his pockets, only to groan and shout. Ah, damn it. Cross forgot the keycard. Let me tell you something, solid titanium door preventing Cross from doing what Vilgax asked. Cross will have a keycard next time and Cross will use that keycard on you real good, ah. With that he yanked the greenette back to his feet and stomped off, dragging him to a door and inputting some code, causing it to slide open. Prisoners. Cross brought you a friend, he will be gone soon, so enjoy it. Midoriya was thrown across the room like a ragdoll, colliding with the wall and falling to the ground with a thud. Ow. The door slid shut and the greenette took a second to look around once there wasn't spots in his vision. It was a mostly barren room, however there was something almost akin to a large hamster wheel in the room, linked up to various generators. As he continued to look around. Hi? A high-pitched, curious voice said and the boy looked down, coming face to face with two aliens, standing roughly the same size as a 10-year-old child. They had full-body pink clothing and white bodies, as well as pigtails in their head. The teen really hoped it wasn't racist to think they looked the exact same. We're JJ. You're a human, right? Yeah, wait, we? He questioned as he started to stand up, finally feeling some feeling coming back to him. I'm recovering way too fast from what happened back there. Did the Omnitrix save me? Oh, yeah, I forgot most humans don't know much about aliens for some reason. One of the two laughed, rubbing the back of her head while the other took over. We're a Splixen, we can split into multiples of ourselves. Oh, so it's like, what did Vilgax call him? A Sonnie? He questioned while looking for anything useful and the two JJs looked at each other with crossed arms. I guess that's fair for someone who doesn't know much. The difference is a Sonnie is a single shared conscious among multiple bodies more or less. They lack agency, doing everything the prime Sonnie wants. We Splixen are independent, able to act of our own accord when split. The first JJ said with a flourish of her body, while the other sat down and started drumming her fingers against the floor as she took over. So we can play games, and the like or even create full colonies from a single Splixen. That's really cool. Midoriya said with a grin, wishing he had a way to learn more about aliens. I should start a notebook. Wait, not the time. That, whatever he is, Cross, he called you prisoners? An apoplexian. A new, weary voice spoke up and Midoriya turned to the corner where a large alien with a white body and gray bumps all over sat. He sounded so old. Their pure anger incarnates. They're also incredibly skilled and powerful fighters, so I wouldn't even think about trying anything. I can see the look in your eyes. But, I can't stay here. I just got kidnapped while Thank God All Might wasn't here to hear that. My teachers' lives, my friends' lives are in danger. Even with Vilgax gone. Poof. So were mine. So were hers. We never made it out. The alien said as he curled into a ball. Midoriya sighed and looked to the girls who just pouted. Oh come on Pellerota. The first JJ whined and the other huffed as she hopped over to Midoriya. Don't be so harsh, he's probably still freaked out. It's the truth. And my name isn't Pellerota. That's my species. Well, you never tell us your name. Because I don't remember it. Then all I've got is your species, why argue? Because there's nothing else to do here. Ah. The Splixens groaned as they formed back into one frustrated alien girl. Fed up, she turned back to the human. So, there's an attack going on right now Vilgax took you away from? Yeah, somehow I have a feeling he helped organize it. Midoriya explained as he walked along, feeling up random parts of the wall and looking for anything he could perhaps use as a weapon. And, you two are prisoners? Why? Kinetic energy. The older alien explained as he uncurled. With her clones in my shell, we can keep moving for long periods of time. They siphon the energy we make whenever the generators get low and the ship needs power. If we don't, Cross punishes us. JJ finished as she sat on the hamster wheel, making the greenette frown. So, slavery can be added the list of reasons not to let Vilgax go. Right, well either way, even if you two aren't going to do anything, I can't just sit here. I'm sorry about whatever happened to you, but my friends are still there, they still need me. I can't let him have the Omnitrix no matter what, so as soon as he comes back, I'm gone. Midoriya said as he pulled off a surprisingly loose rod from one of the generators, missing the Pellerota's reaction to what he said. Should work for now. What's your name? JJ asked as she hopped off the wheel and walked to the entrance. Izuku Midoriya. He said as he walked beside her, and she took a deep breath before smiling up at him, a determined look in her eyes. Well, I snuck out the other day. It gets so boring in here, Cross caught me, but I didn't see much, but I did find these robots working on a room. I bet they were making it for whatever you were looking for if it's important to him. If you really think you can get us out, then I'll take you there. If he could get them out? There's no can or can't, I just have to do it. Alright, ugly human child, cross his back and dash, the apoplexian began talking as he opened the door, only to pause when he looked up. Ugly human child? Prisoners? Silence from the seemingly empty room. The bipedal feline didn't think to look behind him as he started to launch into a rant. Let me tell you something, mysterious absence of prisoners and ugly human children, Cross does not appreciate dash. Before he could continue, Izuku slid in front of him and swung around the makeshift baton he'd picked up right into the underling, right into. Cross kitty makers. Now JJ. The boy shouted in Pink Blur after Pink Blur began to dogpile atop their captor. Hey, over here. Nah, look here. Better yet. Just disappear. RAAH. Let me tell you something, rebelling clones of one of my prisoners, Cross does not appreciate sneak attacks. The tiger-like alien roared as he shook them off, throwing them all around and smacking one off the ground, throwing her back. The room was suddenly chorusing with the pain shouts of all the JJs. They share pain? Cross will punish you. Oh, not on my watch. The greenette announced as smashed the baton against the alien's face, only to pale when it snapped in two. You don't have your watch. Clawed fists came at his head. Izuku, move. Came the older voice of the Pellerota, and the greenette jumped to the side, turning back to see a curled-up gray ball colliding with Cross and throwing him back. Roller? The greenette questioned, and the cannonball-like alien looked at him confused. Well, I need to call you something. Right, sorry about being harsh, it's easy to forget what it's like for someone new after spending so much time here, but as long as there is a chance, we have to get you back. Roller said as he turned back to Cross with a glare. My race are peaceful, we don't fight typically, so I never retaliated. Time that changed, take JJ and go. I'll hold him off. Right. Midoriya nodded in agreement and ran off, JJ reforming back into one and running with him. Let me tell you something, Pellerota. Cross does not appreciate being knocked across the room, only Cross does the knocking. Slam. The teen stopped running for a moment and looked back to see that a door had slid down, cutting them off. Roller. He'll be fine. Those shells are some of the toughest things in the galaxy, we need to keep moving. JJ assured him, not stopping her sprint. Right. Actually, we should take a quick detour, think you can handle some drones? Well, no time like the present to find out. Alley up. JJ shouted as she threw another clone into the air, who grabbed a smaller flying drone and lead it into a nearby wall. The clone looked back with an annoyed look. It's alley-oop. It doesn't matter. Midoriya shouted back as ducked and weaved around a human-sized robot, who by sheer luck was lacking any deadly lasers. He dodged under its legs, tearing one off and smashing it through the robot's head. Never have I been so glad for All Might's training regime. Is there a reason you brought me here? Yeah. A third clone said, brushing away the remains of another slower drone and running to a nearby wall, riffling through the cabinets. I know it's a little rude to say, but humans don't really have much going for them, compared to the usual stuff Vilgax would go after, so I thought you could benefit from a few toys. Toys? He questioned, and the girl came back holding 2 guns of some description and 2 odd boards. Also, I think whoever decides that stuff needs to re-examine Earth now we have quirks. Yeah, well either way, here. She shrugged, passing him one of the guns and one of the boards. You know how to use a blaster, right? Press the trigger and hope for the best? Yeah, as far as I understand it, that's about it. The board I think you might get more of a kick out of. As she said that, she pressed a button on it and Midoriya watched as it fell to the ground, extending out to resemble a snowboard made of glass, and a hoverboard? Awesome. Told you it was worth the detour. The Splixen grinned, morphing back into one. So what exactly are we trying to get back anyways? What's an Omnitrix? Oh, well. So, as they continued to walk through the halls, being careful to avoid most of the drones and taking out some from behind, Midoriya explained how his watch worked and everything that had happened until that point as they hovered through the halls. And that's why, even if I can't get it back on my own wrist, I can't let Vilgax have it. So this watch, it makes you a hero? He started to say yes, then he paused as an image of All Might passed through his mind, of the day he saved Kakin, and he realized what he was doing right now. No, it just gives me powers. With or without it, I will be a hero. The Omnitrix just makes me better at it. He said with a grin, reloading the blaster. It was surprisingly easy to figure out, not too unlike a gun on Earth. They got out onto a catwalk between 2 sections where fortunately no drones were present. And between you and me, I'm totally keeping this board if I get out as well. Intruder alert, intruder alert. Red lights flashed as sirens wailed and the boy felt his heart drop in his chest. Great, now we better hurry. Hurry where, Midoriya? A voice asked and the greenette's eyes widened as he turned to see Vilgax standing tall. You didn't think you'd get it back, would you? Ah. JJ shouted in fear as she fell off her board. And you shall be sharing his fate now for this insolence. The squid-like alien said as he began to stalk towards them. Without another thought, Midoriya gritted his teeth. I am a hero, watch or no watch. JJ, go find the Omnitrix. And he charged at Vilgax. Exactly one word was going through Midoriya's mind, on an endless loop as charged forward towards his towering opponent with nothing more than a blaster, a hoverboard and his own wit. Crap 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 crap. He could hear the pattering of his alien ally's feet as she rushed off to recover the Omnitrix, and vaguely he registered relief that she'd at least be safe for the moment. That helped spur him on. The squid-like alien reared back his fist and swung forth, fist moving fast. Not so fast that the boy couldn't react, though it really was last moment as he jumped over the villain's head and rolled across the metal ground as the board smacked square against his face. Ah! You pest! The villain turned to face him as he scrambled back up to his feet and put a bit of distance between the two. Can't rely on my own strength here obviously, so got to find someone to beat him without touching him. Last mistake, brat. I need only end you now and throw you out myself. A simple endeavor. The villain growled as he started stomping forth, and Midoriya quickly gripped the blaster tight as he waited for his opportunity. Vilgax's fist came down again and he dived, barely making through the gap only to be yanked back by his leg. Humph, goodbye Midoriya. Quick think. Midoriya thought, looking around for anything he could use in the situation he was in as Vilgax lifted his fist, ready to knock him out when he noticed it. Part of the grating on the floor was loose and the railing barely was attached. As quickly as he could, the boy pressed the trigger as he aimed vaguely at his opponent and a blast went off. Ugh. Ah. The greenette let out a short cry as his body smacked against the metal, accidentally kicking the gun off the edge of the platform into the abyss. He hurried to the other side quickly before Vilgax recovered, grabbing his board and turning to face the villain. Maybe, when he's angry he gets a little more reckless. Why, you were saying? Seems like you're kinda terrible at actually getting anything done yourself. He baited as he kept the board ready. Vilgax fell for it amazingly, red pinprick eyes almost glowing with anger as he charged forward and smashed a fist down as Izuku took a leap of faith of the catwalk, placing the board beneath him and flying around and above the villain. A quick check revealed his theory was spot on as another part of the catwalk had started to crumble under the alien's strength. Perfect. I can work with this. You think it's wise to insult your destroyer? The squid questioned as he ripped part of the railing off and launched it at the boy who had to jump off the hoverboard to dodge, leaving it in midair. That's it. No, but I refuse to die here, so I haven't done anything unwise yet. The boy stalled as he looked for his next attack point. The villain's arms twitched as he let out a small chilling laugh. Except say that. Vilgax mocked as he rushed forward for the final time, as his fist crashed down against the grating, screwing flying into the air as Midoriya dived only to be caught even sooner by Vilgax, who smashed him against the floor. Ow. Did you really think that would work again without a blaster? Worth a shot. The greenette muttered as he looked up, the final screw right in front of him. He shot his hand out and managed to grab it, yanking it out and causing the platform to begin to fall, both of them still on it. You idiot child. Vilgax laughed amused as he jumped up trying to reach safety and let him plummet. He didn't make it far however as a gray blur suddenly collided into his and knocked him into the sidewall, sending him plummeting to the depths below. The gray ball continued, bouncing off the wall and coming back, opening up and making Midoriya's eyes go wide. Hang on, Izuku. Roller! He cried out happily, being caught up in the alien's arms as his vision filled with pure white for a minute as his body twisted and turned as if it was in a roller coaster. Suddenly the world came back into view and Midoriya pushed up to see they'd landed on the catwalk again. I guess you beat Cross then? For now, apoplections are tough creatures. He'll be back in no time. The alien said as the both stood up. So will Vilgax, we only delayed him. Where's JJ? I sent her ahead to keep her safe while I fought Vilgax. You just helped me out of that, so... The greenette turned and was surprised to see the hoverboard in front of him. Oh, thanks for grabbing that. No problem. I can't believe you survived a direct conflict without any powers, guess I really did underestimate you. The Petarola said as they hurried down the halls, fortunately not making any turn-offs. A loud bang echoes from behind them and the two stopped, looking back. Let me tell you something, massive gap-blocking crosspath. Cross does not appreciate you pathing Cross's obstruction. Came the loud angry growl of the tiger-like alien and Midoriya grimaced as Roller stepped forward. Keep running, find JJ. I'll create a blockage. The older alien instructed and Midoriya nodded as he sprinted off, throwing the hoverboard in front of him and flying on. Bang after bang sounded behind him as he passed door after door, only making quick checks along the way until finally he came across a room that seemed to almost glow from the outside. He swerved in and paled at what he saw inside. All across the floor, struggling and in pain were JJ's clones and herself, all trying to fight a drone. Not just any drone though, the same one that had attacked him and his mother. He could tell by the markings. The greenette inspected the room quickly and noticed an energy spear of some kind behind him. He grabbed quickly without a thought and sped forth, leaping into the air behind the robotic fighter and brought the weapon down clean through its head. It failed to notice him and as a result nothing stopped the attack. As the head collided with the floor, the body fell backwards as well. Thanks, another minute and I was done FOWarely, Izuku? Why you actually beat Vilgax? The Splixen questioned as she merged back to normal with her clones. Midoriya shook his head as he looked around and his eyes narrowed in disbelief as he saw the Omnitrix sat upon an altar as if it was some ancient relic. Not exactly. We still have to hurry but Roller's just behind me at least. The teen explained as he sprinted up the steps, surprised to be greeted by the Omnitrix's voice once again. DNA samples identified. Oh no. Then, without the boy even doing anything, the watch leapt out, wrapping tight around his wrist. He couldn't help but smile at those familiar beeps as it finished up. Izuku Midoriya. Good, it feels good to have you back, and now I'm talking to a watch. Midoriya started off excited before deadpanning as JJ started walking towards him. Tampering detected. Temporarily disabling timeout function. They each announced next and the greenet's grin grew even wider. That would have been useful before, but I'm not complaining. SK, this is an Omnitrix? The alien girl asked as she walked up to get a closer look and the boy nodded, only for both of them to jump when a yellow light suddenly shot out and washed over the Splixon. Hey, what the heck? New DNA sample acquired, Splixon. The watch announced and Midoriya looked back down, surprised to see a new silhouette show up in the interface. No way. He could hardly resist as he pressed in the screen, green light engulfing him like it had so many times before. When it dissipated, in his place stood a single male Splixon with a bright green jumpsuit and white gems around his body. Ha! This is awesome. I didn't know the Omnitrix could scan new aliens. W8. Are you a male me now? JJ questioned dumbstruck as she looked at him and the boy nodded with a grin as his body began to split. Whoa, that's weird. Nothing like reverb. The first one said, as the second one stretched. Yeah, we need a good name for ourselves. Oh. How about Duple? What do you think, JJ? Sounds awesome, Midoriya. The alien nodded her approval as the two duples formed back into one and tapped the Omnitrix symbol, returning to normal. That's so cool, so you can turn into any alien you want? Not any alien, just whatever I already have in the Omnitrix apparently. Though now I'm curious why it didn't try to scan Vilgax. The boy shrugged as he did a quick head count. All 10 of his original set and the new addition were accounted for. So, it is real. Came Roller's stunned voice as he walked into the room, looking at the boy. It suits you. Thanks. Midoriya smiled as he scratched the back of his head when the watch once more kicked into action, scanning the older alien. Huh, guess you weren't in here either. New DNA sample acquired, Pellerota. The watch announced again, once more showing a silhouette with it. The greenet grinned but then shook his head, remembering why they were here in the first place. Okay guys, we need to get to the front of the ship. If we can, I can use my Brainiac or Enhance forms to get us down to Earth. I really hope too much time hasn't passed down there. The boy instructed and the two aliens nodded as they turned and hurried towards their destination. It only took a few minutes to find it, with Roller quickly dispatching the drones they found along the way. They eventually arrived in the cockpit and Midoriya grinned as he saw the controls. Hopefully, I can just Brainiac to reverse the teleporter for a one-way trip. The three of us leave and those two get stranded up here. It was going so well, then in an instant things went sour. The watch face turned yellow and suddenly the light shot out to behind, causing the greenet's eyes to go wide. Roller! Look out! JJ screamed in a panic and Midoriya looked up as a red beam suddenly shot past him, into the glass window and back at the Pellerota, who raised his arms to block. New DNA sample acquired. Despite his attempt, the alien was too slow as the laser hit him right in his exposed stomach and the alien's eyes widened before he slowly began to fall over. Roller, no! Apoplexion. The teen turned, and there stood Vilgax with a blaster in hand and his underling beside him, and Midoriya snapped. You, bastard! He screamed as he ran at the pair, pressing in the watch face and launching at the two out of the green light of the Omnitrix. The blaster Vilgax held in his hand lit up as another red beam shot out, but before it could hit anyone, Midoriya jumped out of the light of his transformation in a brand new form. He stood tall, almost exactly the same as Cross except he lacked clothes and had green eyes instead of red ones. He deflected the blast with his claws, causing the blast to return and blow up the gun in the villain's hand. Everyone looked at him for a moment, seemingly expecting some outburst from his new form. It didn't come, however, as he slowly turned with nothing more than snarl as he began running forward. How dare you take Cross's look, ugly Earthchild? Only Cross can cross like look. The clothes Apoplexion screamed as he rushed to meet his opponent, fist coming forward. The teen intercepted easily, however, bending his arm back down without a word. Cross's eyes widened slightly as he threw his other fist only for the same result. Give Cross's arms back. Cross needs those to beat you to a bloody pulp. Let me tell you something, Cross, servant of Vilgax and Vilgax, evil alien from space, you killed Wrath's friend. The transformed alien finally spoke, voice low and dangerous. What the? Vilgax seemed surprised by the much more tame demeanor of the teenaged apoplexian, and took a step back as Cross was head-butted and thrown towards the squid-like alien. And Wrath believes in eye for an eye. Wrath screamed as he ran straight at the two, eyes full of fiery rage. His fist clashed with Vilgax's as the two started to trade blows. Vilgax's punches knocked him back. The apoplexian's durability was great but not perfect against such a drastically powerful opponent. Despite that fact, the alien forced himself back up, continuing to put his all into every attack. You attack Wrath's class. Vilgax punched down towards him again, but the tiger alien dodged, throwing the fist to the floor and aiming right for the face with his claw, causing the villain to let out a cry of pain. You hurt Wrath's friends. Why won't you just lay down and die? Vilgax shouted in frustration as his arms bulked up into much more muscular versions and he charged at the angry boy. I will have my Omnitrix. Wrath told you. Wrath screamed as he leapt straight at him, barely avoiding a hit and flipping over the villain, rushing Cross, who had finally started to get up, and picking him up once more, throwing him at the villain as a distraction. Over my dead body. And Wrath is still living. Then allow me to fix that. The squid villain said, throwing his minion to the side without a care. The two rushed each other once and Midoriya put his all into his next hits, very barely resisting the full brunt of the super-powered attacks. Vilgax's strength had increased and the bones inside his body were ready to break any moment. Despite that though, he didn't let up and continued to put on the pressure. This seemed to really take the villain off guard. Even if you are a prime apoplexian, how the hell are you so strong? Did no one ever tell you, Vilgax, alien whose time is running out? The tiger mocked with a snarl, finally deciding to retreat after that, no longer able to hold up. Anger is a great catalyst, especially when it's not just Wrath who was angry. For the final time, he ran at him once more and leapt high into the air, quickly landing behind the large villain and jumping onto his back, using a claw to pry parts of his armor off. At least he was trying to. I'm angry as well. Cross thinks that doesn't even make sense. Cross said in a daze, body on the floor. Wrath was torn off by Vilgax and thrown into the window beside his new friends, causing it to crack. Midoriya. The tiger's eyes widened in surprise and he looked to see Roller weakly reaching out for him, JJ trying to stop him exerting himself. Roller? It'll be okay, Wrath will save his friends. I get it, your personalities aren't merging like they should. Vilgax muttered as he stood up, a massive horrifying grin covering his face. My, you are an emotional child to have enough anger to be able to cause such an effect as an apoplexian. What is your plan anyways if you do get back? Huh? They'll all be dead. That creature gave me a run for my money, barely. Do you really think any of your pitiful friends or transformations stand a chance against such an indestructible creature? The villain taunted, causing the tiger to snarl. Wrath doesn't understand dash. Before Wrath continued with his outburst, he was cut off by Roller's weak voice. You can't utilize that form's full potential. He coughed out, trying to push himself up. Hey Roller, shoo. Don't push yourself. JJ said quietly as a clone held him up from the other side. We need to get away before your transformation's normal self takes over completely. Please, turn back and let me do this. The Pellerota said, coughing in between his words, and the teen hated the flashes of all might that went through his head hearing them. You aren't going anywhere. Not with that watch still on your wrist. Vilgax shouted as he started to charge forward. The bipedal tiger let out a sigh, watching the villain's movements. And now. Vilgax leapt at him as a green flash engulfed him and he shrank back to normal. The villain turned with a look of pure rage, ready to try again. Whatever you're gonna do, do it now. No! Oh! Brace yourself! Roller shouted, coughing out blood as he did so. Midoriya felt sweat break out as Vilgax got closer and closer until suddenly all he could see was gray. He registered a shattering noise. Things suddenly became cold and harder to breathe, as he felt both JJs pressed against him. They seemed to be lacking any actual speed for a moment, before it suddenly picked up rapidly. Whatever was happening outside, suddenly the cold disappeared, and intense heat replacing it for a few moments. He almost felt like he was cooking until it finally stopped and he just felt the tumbles of moments. Finally, after so long of not knowing what was going on, he felt a sudden massive jolt and light return to his eyes once more as Roller uncurled. The greenette pushed himself up and his eyes widened as he realized they were surrounded by trees, familiar ones. He looked up, boom after boom filling his ears, and saw the USJ. The fight was still going on. Ugh! Roller groaned as Midoriya and JJ hopped off him, eyes closing. Roller, no! Don't close your eyes! JJ shouted out in fear as she hurried up to him, and Midoriya gritted his teeth. This is my fault, he wouldn't even be fighting if I didn't show up. Roller, please. I'm sorry, I wasn't a better friend. He choked out. Izuku, please, put my body to better use than I did. Roller! JJ screamed as she knelt down beside him. No, come on. We escaped. You can't die now, you can't. Please, don't leave me, please. Midoriya felt his eyes begin to sting and his vision started getting blurry as tears started to fall. He wasn't even close to the alien, but he certainly didn't deserve this. He pulled up the Omnitrix's interface, and started to scroll through the selections as he spotted the hoverboard on the ground. There's a building, just east of here. Take him there, and tell them Izuku sent you. Tell them to send backup to the USJ if they haven't already. I don't know what the nurse can do, she doesn't know aliens but... Alright. The distraught Splixen nodded as she separated into 20 of herself to speed up the process. One of them looked back at him as they began to carry him away. What about you? What are you gonna do? Respect his wishes. You said Pelorota shells were one of the toughest things in the galaxy, right? He asked as he grabbed the hoverboard and jumped on it. Definitely, they're practically indestructible. Apparently so is whatever the hell their pet is in there. So it's time to answer the old question. What happens when an immovable force meets an unstoppable object? With that, he took off towards the facility. He arrived in no time at all, hopping off his board and slamming open the doors. Deku? Midoriya? A few students and pros were gathered as group atop the stairs. From a quick head count, Midoriya realized both Aizawa and 13 were injured and had to fall back. 13's back was ripped off and the Erasure Hero's arms was completely limp and one of his eyes swollen close. The other pros were Nizu, sat atop Ida's shoulder, Snipe, Ectoplasm, and Present Mike. Also atop the stairs was Uraraka, Setu, Siro, Ajui, Mineta, Shoji, and Mina. All of them looked both shocked and relieved to see him, with the frog girl being the first to speak up. Wait, I thought one of the villains got you? Ribbit. They did. The boy said simply as he marched forward, seeing that a majority of the human thugs had been knocked out in All Might, along with Vlad King, Todoroki, Bakugo and Kirishima were fighting the Nomu and other pros were spread about. One detail did definitely grab his attention. Pretty much all of Vilgax's robots were still standing. Before he could continue walking on, a hand shot out and held him back. He looked up to see Snipe holding him back. Whoa there kid, we're struggling as is to get everyone to safety. You can't just run back in. You can't damage them, can you? The droids I mean. He inquired, and the pro looked back at his co-workers before nodding. Not surprising. Alien tech does seem to be seriously overpowered in the Defense Department. Alien? What are you talking about, dude? Why are you acting so different from normal? Ciro questioned with a worried tone and the greenette side. Sorry, it's just, something happened, while that villain had me. he said simply, going through his aliens. To put a long story short for now, it was never just a little nickname or something for my transformations, I genuinely meant they're aliens. I promise I'll explain properly later, but for now, you have my full permission to assist. Niza spoke up, getting him incredulous looks from everyone, and a smile from the boy. We already allow him to fight within the training grounds if need be, this is no different. He knows these aliens in ways we do not, we shouldn't throw away our biggest asset against them now that we truly need him. Thank you, Principal Nizu. The boy said, before turning back to the battlefield. You might want to stand back by the way, once I go alien I have a feeling they'll all be in one spot, so you don't want to be too close to the blast zone. What are you going to do? Use crystallized strength? Blink speed? Aizawa inquired through gritted teeth, obviously conflicted about this. They aren't one-hit kills. Not unless you're All Might, but he's busy. I wouldn't be so sure about that. With that, he pressed in the dial and his body got bigger, as he felt hard shells coat his back and his fingers were replaced by small claw-like appendages. I got a new trick. Neat cannon shot. As he looked back to the field, he saw all of the robots running at him, ready to swarm him. He waited a moment, letting them get closer before he started to try to run forward, stumbling a bit from his top-heavy weight. Time to roll. With that he flew off the edge of the stairs, curling into his ball and rolling along the way. As he did, he could almost visualize where he was from the sounds and vibrations in the air. So that's how he saw like this. With that he aimed straight down, crashing straight through one of the robot's interiors and bouncing off the ground into a tree and flying back at another, going through the bottom and bouncing back off the roof. As he did this, plenty of lasers fired upon him, but his shell easily negated it all. He continued to bounce around, hitting off trees, walls and the roof to smash through the robots with ease. Finally, he smashed straight through the final massive robot and after a few moments of rolling, uncurled to take in his handiwork. The entire set of robot had been decimated from his assault, making him grin just a little. For you, Roller. With that, he ran on ahead and found All Might struggling with Nomu while Bakugo and Todoroki kept Shigaraki and Kirojiri at bay. Kirishima provided backup to the two boys whenever one of them was on the verge of being hit by the villain's quirks. Without a second thought, he charged in quickly, picking up momentum and bashing into Nomu, bouncing off him and flying back into a wall. The bird monster was unaffected by the first hit, but as the boy was launched back and hit against a wall, coming at him faster than before the bird went to hit. A punch from All Might barely threw him off center for cannon shot to barrel into the monster's stomach and knock him back before uncurling. Young Midoriya? All Might exclaimed, tone a mixture of joy, worry and surprise. The villains and teens paused for just a moment, turning to the newcomer with similar surprise. Midoriya? How the heck did you manage to knock back that guy? Kirishima shouted in shock, before turning and punching Shigaraki before Todoroki was grabbed by him. By hitting him? The alien teen said dumbly, not really sure what the red-headed boy was driving at. My boy, that creature has taken several 100% smashes from myself already. All Might said, stunned, and Midoriya blinked. Oh. Well, I mean, it's kinda this aliens thing, so. Aurora alerted them to Nomu returning and they took on fighting positions. I won't tell you to run, I know you won't anyway. But that alien won't be the one to stop this creature, I'm afraid. All Might informed him and the boy sighed, changing back to normal, and quickly dialing through his selections. Sorry I couldn't do more, Roller. Still, if All Might says so then I shouldn't take chances. He was just about to press in Chiller when all of a sudden. Boom! Once more they turned their attention away from the fight, as the roof shattered open and a figure crashed into the ground in a ball of fire, causing a crater where he landed. He stood up as the smoke cleared and Midoriya felt his blood boil as Vilgax walked out of the crater. Damn it! As if we needed another fucking villain. Bakugo shouted in annoyance, and Midoriya nodded in silent agreement. He's definitely as bad as Nomu, if not worse. Midoriya said without hesitation. He wanted to believe there would be no competition with his mentor fighting Vilgax, but he knew it wasn't the case. Then an idea struck. Hey, All Might? Remember when I first got the Omnitrix? How is that relevant right now, my boy? The man asked, confused as he wiped away a trace of blood at his lips. Midoriya grinned as he changed his selection to the very first alien he ever changed into it. Well, let's make up for it properly, and show these guys the colossal mistake they've made attacking us. Ah. Good idea, my boy. Together? A green flash, and where the greenette had stood now the towering colossus had took his place with a smug grin, even upping his size a few feet past his normal height for a strength boost. Together! Together! With that confident announcement the two rushed at their opponents, attracting the attention of the rest on the sidelines. All Might started to run faster than his successor as he seemed to glow with power. I got the squid, my boy. Right. Colossus nodded, turning his attention to Nomu. Finally the four met in the middle and fists began to fly. Vilgax and All Might fists met, canceling each other out over and over, only occasionally landing blows. As they clashes, the wind power of the blonde's blows were slowly but surely pushing Vilgax back. On the alien dinosaur's side, he couldn't really say he was struggling. Admittedly, any direct blow into the creature did nothing, but the bird monster also only had enough strength hurt a little worse than a regular punch with the boy's scales protecting him. There was a much easier way to fight this creature as well. As Nomu came in for another attack, the transformed teen dodged, grabbing Nomu's arm and yanking him up and spinning around on the heels on his feet. He spotted his target with a grin. All Might, incoming. With it he launched the monster and watched as his mentor jumped out the way, causing it to collide with Vilgax and throwing them back. Nice shot, young Midoriya. Thanks. Trade you a moment, I got something to say to Vilgax. The teen said as he stomped forth, causing the ground to shake as he did. All Might followed behind, and the brown-scaled alien quickly descended upon the recovering Vilgax, who grabbed his incoming fists to hold back. Sorry Gaxi, but I have something I need to make up for from our first fight. Quickly he swished around and knocked the villain off his feet using his tail. As Vilgax fell through the air, Colossus grabbed his leg and smashed him into the ground, before lifting him up and repeating it before finally throwing him in the air and punching him back a few feet. That's it. You annoying earthling, just die. You ever think about anger management? I feel like it could really benefit you. Midoriya pondered, backing up into All Might, the squid-like villain rushing at them. You got yours running at you as well? Yep. Ready? Ready. Quickly the two dived to the side and Vilgax and Nomu collided, the monster throwing his ally back. As this was happening, Midoriya was too distracted to hear the beeping of the Omnitrix in amongst the noise. Now my boy, grab the monster. Before the villains had time to react, All Might started an assault on Vilgax as a distraction while Colossus yanked the bird creature's arms over its head and pulled it up, rendering it motionless at the moment. It kicked hard but couldn't get loose. Got him. With that the ground shattered as the pro rushed back full speed, delivering blow after blow into the villain. He can absorb shock, not nullify. There's a limit to it, there has to be. Oh, I get it. If you can create enough force behind you. Quickly the transformed teen threw Nomu to the side and shoved his mentor as well to intercept Vilgax's strike. You really need to learn to wait your turn. All he got in response was a growl. Quickly the dinosaur threw both the villain's arms to the side and delivered a swift strike to the face, before pulling his legs out from under him. He tried another strike but suddenly his legs were swept as well and the villain leapt back, swinging him around into a nearby tree. Ow. He stood up, eyes going wide as he realized Vilgax was atop him. He tried to block but was too late as blow after blow hit him in the face, before one finally blow threw him back into Nomu, pushing the creature into one of his mentor's punches. Wow, these guys really don't know how to work together. Well, one of them is a mindless slave monster. All Might said, and the teen shrugged as he faced his own opponent. What are we going to do about the alien, young Midoriya? It's not a perfect plan, but... He paused as he blocked an incoming hit, grabbing Nomu from behind him and using it as a bat to knock away Vilgax and smashing the monster into the ground. I doubt any of our prisons will be able to hold him properly, and then he wouldn't even be properly charged for a lot of stuff I bet, seeing as it happened in space. So, I'm sending him back where he belongs. Behind you, my boy. All Might called out in panic, and he turned to see Nomu coming at him. Without missing a beat, the alien grabbed his beak and threw the monster aside. Then, something stabbed into the teen's legs. Suddenly, green electricity burst around him and he cried out in pain before a similarly colored fist collided into his face and stomach. He grabbed the offending fists, ignoring the pains, and looked Vilgax's rage-filled eyes. What the dash? Give me my Omnitrix, you brat! The squid-like monster demanded, slowly starting to overpower him. Crap, how is he doing this? Neither of you have much time left, just give up. Deku. Midoriya wasn't sure who cried out, to be busy fighting back. Need to end this. Beep. 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 No! He shouted out, and faster than he could think he started growing in size, crushing his opponent's fists in his hands and spinning as fast as he could. And stay out of my life. Whoa! A flash engulfed him as he let go and he was on the ground once more in human form, but he'd barely done it in time. He looked up and he saw Vilgax crashing through the roof and out into hopefully the further reaches of space. Should at least slow him down until we can finish up with the rest. Midoriya. A voice came from behind and he turned to see his heterochromatic-haired classmate, Todoroki. Come on. Todoroki? Wah dash. A teacher sent me to escort you when your time limit ran out. He explained simply, turning on his feet and beginning to walk. Let's go. We can't stay in the way when All Might's fighting. Right. Clash. Bang. Boom. The two turned for a moment, seeing the quickly escalating chaos of the pro and monsters fight. Hopefully now he can fight without worry. This will go easier for him. You damn brats! A scratchy, irritated voice called out and Midoriya looked up to see the hand-covered villain and his Warpgate friend stood across from Kirishima and Bakugo, as well as now Ectoplasm. This really is game over. I'd recommend you surrender now. Ectoplasm suggested, but the villains made no moves to do so. From behind, Midoriya could feel the wind of the fight his mentor was engaged in, as the ground shook beneath them. Essay words, but I'll teach you what they really mean. At hearing that, the greenette took a quick glance behind to see his mentor deliver a final blow to the villain. Go beyond. Plus ultra. And suddenly, an explosion erupted from the sheer force of the punch, launching Nomu right beside the greenette's own hole that Vilgax had made. A moment later, and the blonde staggered quietly beside them all. I'll give you, villains, that was quite the challenge. In my heyday, one punch would have been enough. Not really the time to reminisce, All Might. Ectoplasm reminded him and the blonde nodded. It seemed like victory was within their grasp. Midoriya was starting to feel his stomach sink, however. Because smoke was starting to roll off All Might. Of course. You've been bested, villains, it's time you give up. The pro said, and the presumed leader of the villains, Shigaraki, started scratching more and more violently. You cheated. He said simply, before he stopped. Then he looked straight up, at Midoriya. You and your stupid watch. Midoriya. Beep. Shigaraki suddenly launched forward, almost frenzied and getting closer. No one could move fast enough to get in between him and his target. So Midoriya slammed in the dial and hoped for the best. A green flash engulfed them both, and a second later it dissipated to reveal that the villain had missed. Midoriya had dodged by a hair's length. Then, he let out a rasp chuckle. You're in trouble now, I've had a lot of practice with this one. Whoosh! A second later, the villain was thrown into his warping counterpart without anyone even having seen it happen. In the blink of an eye, Blink was in the fight and finished it without hesitation. Now dash. Kirojiri. The two were surrounded by purple smoke, and the alien's visor slid down as he went to rush them. He'd have already had them if not for Midoriya, don't. I will kill you, symbol of peace, and your cheating students. Then, they were gone. The speedster alien looked up at his mentor confused, having had an opportunity to catch the villains. I didn't want to risk losing you again, he said simply, and the boy winced as he thought about what it must have been like for the blonde. All right, students, get to the entrance. Except you, Midoriya. Without a word, the other three followed his instructions and followed Ectoplasm away, who created a wall of clones to hide the blonde's transformation back into his true form. Without missing a beat, Blink scooped the man up and took him into the part of the forest he had hid in with Aizawa. Right, before we talk. The blonde began tiredly as he sat against the tree, gesturing out to all the villains still around. Think you could do a little cleanup? There's plenty of rope in the storage room on the 3rd floor of the school. Whoosh! It took 5 minutes, and only because he was constantly being stopped by doors heavy enough that he didn't want to accidentally crash into them full speed. He finished up upon the stairs, all the villains bunched up and delivered to the pros before running back, registering a shouted thanks from Nizu in the distance. He finally stopped once, more tapping the Omnitrix until he was back to normal and... So what happened? This would take a while. And, that's everything that happened until I got to you. Midoriya said, voice heavy as he turned and looked out to the now mostly empty USJ, the only evidence of conflict the cracks in the floor and the few robots still scattered about. You faced him, even without your watch? All Might asked, worry and something else in his voice. Midoriya nodded as he balled his fists. Not that it matters, I couldn't, Roller still. His throat seemed to constrict as he looked down. Now that there was no fight drawing his attention, keeping his thoughts at bay, he was forced to confront the aftermath. He'd still be alive, if I didn't show up. A hand settled on his shoulder and he turned to see his mentor frowning at him, before pulling him into a tight hug. He was a prisoner, you said it yourself. Vilgax killed him, not you. The only one to blame is him. But... Midoriya tried to argue, but found he was struggling too much to really get anything out. You did more than anyone could have asked of you, in this situation, Midoriya. You saved that other alien, JJ? You prevented Vilgax from getting his hands on tech he shouldn't have, and you took him on like a true hero. The blonde said as he squeezed the boy's shoulders. You've been through a lot today, it's okay to cry, I'm so proud of you, kiddo. Thank you. Midoriya muttered as he finally let the tears fall, wrapping his own arms around his mentor. Thank you. Alright kid, come on, we should get back to the school. Right. Without really thinking, the boy turned to Blink and transformed, rushing them both to the infirmary without a thought. They arrived outside it in no time at all, as he set his mentor down and transformed back. Seriously kid, warn me if you're gonna do that in the future. Toshinori complained as he placed his hand on the wall to steady himself. Sorry, He sighed as he looked up at the infirmary door. Then he pushed it open and walked in. Inside, Roller's body laid upon one of the beds and Recovery Girl walked around it, but it was clear that there was nothing she could do. Machines were attempted to be wired up, yet few were actually working, and the few that were had no good readings, as far as the Greenette was aware. Off to the side, face in her hands and sobbing quietly. JJ? She froze up for a moment before looking up. The teen slowly made his way beside her and knelt down to be eye level with her. Her glistening eyes met his and his heart felt like it was crushed by the sheer sadness inside. Are you okay? Sorry, stupid question. The boy realized, taking the seat beside her. I didn't really know him, but I can't imagine how it must feel for you. He was, Vilgax, he took me 4 years ago. The girl said as she wiped her eyes, looking at the floor. Roller was always distant, but he was all I know, and he was still so kind to me when he didn't need to be. I probably would have went insane if not for him. In a way, I'm glad. She said, causing the boy to blink in surprise. I mean, obviously I wish he was still here, but I'm just glad he isn't suffering anymore, and I think he went out like he wanted to. Making a difference in getting back at Vilgax. Yeah. Midoriya nodded, understanding what she meant. Quietly, he pulled his watch up to him and scrolled through to his Pellerota transformation while Recovery Girl forced his mentor into a bed. You know, it's weird to know it's his DNA in here, yet to see him. Yeah, I think he'd probably be happy you have it. He liked to be aloof a lot, but he just wanted people to be happy. Guess it was just a natural part of being a Pellerota. JJ said with a sad, broken laugh before she sniffled. I just wish I had more time with him. Me too. The Omnitrix bearer said with a sigh of his own, before standing up. JJ, if you don't want to right now, that's fine, but I'm going to have to bring you to the principal at some point, do you think, maybe? The alien girl caught on quickly, body stretching to the sides before another JJ, equally forlorn, popped out. Yeah, let's go. Hey, hold on. Where do you think you're going, mister? Recovery Girl asked with an annoyed yet worried tone. You were fried. You can't just leave. I know, but... He looked at the clone and the original JJ, before looking back. I'll be back, but I need to do this. I can still walk and talk, please. But... The woman paused for a moment, as if thinking it over before she sighed and pinched the bridge of her nose. Fine, just be quick. Thank you. The walk to the principal's office was quiet, and when they arrived they'd found no one within. Must still be with the staff. Probably for the best then. He sighed, turning around and walking, the Splixen trailing behind slowly. As they walked, a thought came to mind. Did the Pellerota have any special ceremony or procedure for when one of their own, you know? Like how we humans usually bury each other. Yeah, actually, their bodies last too long to just be put in the ground, so they had special temples built where they were put into coffins and stored away. The alien explained, rubbing her arm awkwardly. Midoriya, what happens to me now? Huh? I mean, humans clearly don't know much about other aliens and I didn't exactly get here through legal means. She wondered aloud, eyes slowly shimmering more and more with building fear. Will they imprison me again? Throw me away? I don't have anything to go back to. What if? Before she could continue, Midoriya knelt down and took her rubbery-like hand into his. Despite the situation, he did his best to give her a bright smile, like All Might did to reassure people. One thing I know for a fact is that nothing will happen to you, so don't worry about it, okay? How do you know that? She asked, surprised by the conviction in that statement. Standing back up, but not letting go of her hand, instead squeezing it as support, the greenette answered her. Because anyone who tried will have to go through me, and I won't hold back. Eventually they arrived at the staff room and already the boy could hear voices inside. Probably talking about the USJ. You ready? He asked, and though her body was shaking the pink-clad clone nodded her head. With that, he knocked on the door and all the noise from inside stopped. A chair scraped and then... Who is it? A gruff, familiar voice called out. Mr. Aizawa? Shouldn't he be at the infirmary? Izuku Midoriya, sir. I need to speak with all of you as soon as possible, about what happened. He said, and there was hushed mutterings from the other side, presumably debating what to do. After a moment, he got his answer. Come in. With a deep breath, he pushed the door open and walked in to see all the staff sitting around the table looking up at him. At the far end was Nizu, present Mike and Midnight either side of him. 13 was missing, likely at the hospital, but so was ectoplasm. Mr. Midoriya, good to see you're well after the harrowing events of today. I would have thought you would have wanted to rest first before coming to us? You have quite a lot to deal with after all. The principal said, not so subtly alluding to how he was going to have to explain to his class very soon everything. To be honest, sir, I'm still not ready, but there is something incredibly important I have to deal with first. I guess you all know what happened to me, at least from Mr. Aizawa's perspective? He questioned and was met with a chorus of yes. I am truly sorry we couldn't get to you before a villain attempted to abduct you. Nizu apologized, taking a sip of tea. When did he even have time to make that? Yes, as your teacher, I failed you multiple times today. Aizawa said with a sigh, returning to his seat. So I'm sorry as well. There was nothing to be done for it. Midoriya said as he waved his hands, before turning to the door. In fact, it was probably for the best. JJ? Huh? Whose? President Mike began to speak, but the words died in his throat as the alien nervously walked in, looking around at them clearly intimidated. She's like a completely different person now. Well, hello there. Quickly scrolling through his aliens, the teenager settled on his Splixin transformation and pressed it in. The teacher's eyes widened as they noticed the obvious similarities between his new form and JJ. She's an alien. No technicality, no jokes or anything. He started to explain, as he then returned to normal. She's from a species called Splixin, and one of the villains at the USJ, the one who took me, was holding her prisoner along with another, as a power source. That's horrible. Cementas said with a frown, turning to face her. All this new information is hard to take in, but, so who are you? Do you have a name? Well, I just always call myself JJ. She said quietly, not meeting any of their eyes. Midoriya could swear he heard midnight coo at her. I understand this is all new to you, but please just bear with me. Midoriya said as he paced. JJ here helped me escape, and whether it be by luck or fate, we ended up back near the USJ. All I have to say is she needs help just like any other person, shelter. She's worried as she has no idea how people will react to her. Ah, I see where you are going with this, Mr. Midoriya. Nizu nodded, as he stood up and walked around to the alien girl. Well, Miss JJ, I am Principal Nizu and I run this school. As a school for heroics, we pride ourselves on doing what is right and helping others. If Mr. Midoriya can truly vouch for you, then I will do everything in my power to help you. Really? She asked nervously, and the bear-mouse hybrid nodded. Of course. And you have no need to fear others. In a world so full of quirks as our own, most people probably won't even realize you're alien if that's what worries you. He assured as he clapped his paws together. Is there anything else you two need then? Aside from probably aspirin, there is one thing. Midoriya said as he walked up to the principal and whispered the next part into his ear. The Prinicpal's smile turned to a frown, but he nodded. Yes. I'll get to that as soon as possible. For now, you should get to the infirmary. I can only imagine what you've been through. With that, the boy and his alien friend left. After they returned, he got checked up and gave pain medication, as well as be told his mother was anxiously waiting for his return in their apartment where she'd been confined for her own safety with ectoplasm guarding her. He sent her a text promising he would be home very soon. There was just one thing he needed to do first. Something important. It had been 2 hours since Recovery Girl had cleared him as remarkably healthy for what he'd been through, likely a direct result of the Omnitrix, and the Greenette was looking out the window. Down in the large expansive garden ahead he could see the principal, likely waiting on him. He arranged that fast. JJ? He questioned, looking back at the now once again singular Splixin. She looked up, confused as he began going through the Omnitrix. That thing I whispered to Nizu, we can't just keep his body here. Right, so? She swallowed the lump in her throat as he pressed in the watch, flash dissipating to show him in his crystallized form. A Petrosapien? Oh, I get it. With a nod, the teen turned and lifted up Roller into his arms, and the two began to walk down through the halls. It had gotten a lot more quiet now, all the students sent home early. Only Midoriya remained, permitted to wander around due to his situation. The walk was quiet, as they ended up outside soon enough and walked towards the principal, who looked up at them. Midoriya, I set up the paperwork, and after checking no one can object if we start now, so I'd recommend you begin. He said, and the teen nodded as he planted his foot down, crystals sprouting forth. It was more complex than what he's done before, but nothing he couldn't handle. The crystals took on the shape of a temple, with stairs leading up to it and columns supporting it, that only lacked a door. The three walked inside, Midoriya leading them, and saw that it was a mostly empty room. In the middle though, in front of two chunks of crystal mantis seats, was a coffin of sorts. Gently, the boy laid down the pelorota inside before walking to the other side. JJ started to tear up again while Nizu simply cupped his paws and bowed lightly out of respect. I didn't really know Roller, not as well as you JJ, but what I do know is that he didn't deserve what was given to him. The lot in life he found himself with was something he never should have suffered. In the short time I knew him, he saved me 3 separate times, despite his own reservations and feelings. The transformed teen began, carving out the walls as he talked with his control over them. They were hardly elegant, yet they depicted the deceased alien's final day. The true measure of a hero is helping others no matter the cost to yourself, and today Roller acted like a true hero. No matter what, that's something amazing. I only wish I got to know him more. With that, he stepped back, and though the teen expected JJ to say her piece first, Nizu actually walked up. I never even met this fellow, and truly my place here is dubious, but even if I cannot say it to him in life, I must thank him now for protecting my student's life. Wherever you may be now, I hope it treats you well. With that short piece, the principal stepped down and JJ walked forth on wobbly legs. Her entire body shivered as she was forced to look straight at him once more, only for him to never see her. I'm going to miss you so much. I never really thought to give you a name, like Midoriya did. I was so distracted the first day, that in the whole time it never really clicked in my mind. I regret that. What I don't regret though, even with everything we had to go through up there, is that we went through it together. When I thought I would go insane, you were always there for me. Maybe it doesn't mean as much as it should, but you really were my best friend, Roller. I don't think I'll ever be able to accept you aren't here anymore. She then turned away, unable to say anything more as her throat got hoarse. With a sigh, Midoriya stepped up again and placed his hand on the coffin, starting to form a separate lid. Before it finished completely, Midoriya took one last look at the pelorota. I promise. This one thing to you, if Vilgax ever comes back, he'll regret it. And, I promise you I'll do everything I can for JJ. Finally, the lid closed completely and he sighed as he stood up. Nizu turned and began to walk away, while Crystallize picked up JJ as she was too distraught to really move on her own. She buried her head into the crook of his neck as they walked out into the cool night, and he turned as they left, to put the final touch on the temple. As the doors closed, Midoriya thought, so too did the story of Roller. A story he would never let be in vain.
That's it for today. Remember to show your support to the creator of this story if you enjoyed it. If you would like more parts of the story to be uploaded, leave a comment and subscribe to get notified when the story continues. Bye-bye for now, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day.